I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu, Cree, and the Dakota peoples, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. I'm Marcel Larondo. I'll be chairing. Richard Whitbread and Diane Knight are our panel members, and they're Zooming with us. And Jason Robertson is our secretary, and Ryan Valderrama is our assessor. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment rolls in accordance with the Municipal Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussions to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony. Anyone speaking to the matter must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessment of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decision with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to an application of exemption from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We'll then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have. And then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after the applications have been heard. The board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We'll be hearing items 1, 2, 3, and 4 on our docket today. Mr. Robertson, please affirm the assessor and the applicant's testimony.
Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Ryan Valderrama.
Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Neufeld, please state your full name.
Rocky Neufeld.
Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Mr. Mercury, please state your full name.
James Mercury.
Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be dealing with item number 1 at 1041 Portage Avenue. Mr. Neufeld, this is class liability, no value? Is that correct?
There's value on this one.
Oh, there's value and value. Okay. So you're going to deal with class and liability first, then, Mr. Neufeld?
Well, I think that we are content with the class and just defer to Mr. Mercury. I think this is just a value issue on 1041. It's a new property for us, so we filled in all the blanks.
Yeah.
So I think it's just the value within the class. It's because it's all school exempt, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
School exempt, and they've already got it, correct?
Yes, I believe it's all school exempt, so I think that matter is resolved.
Okay, so that's resolved. Okay, so that'll be confirmed after we talk to the assessor. Mr. Ryan, if you could read the number 1 on, we're going to deal with just value, and you can tell us about the liability, what you've done with it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first property has a file number of 22-1857. It has a roll number of 13020011000. The property is located at 1041 Portage Avenue. We're dealing with the roll year of 2023 using reference date of April 1st, 2021. The assessed value is $1,542,000. The property is classified as an institutional property with a liability of taxable school exempt. The property is a non-residential group care with 2 stories, 1 section. It has an effective year built of 1958. construction class of masonry bearing walls. It has an average wall height of 13 feet, and it is zoned as commercial community. It has a land area of 32,268 square feet, a planned area of 10,242 square feet, a basement area of 10,242 square feet, and a gross floor area of 29,310 square feet. On the next page, page 2 is the aerial photo of the subject property. And on page 3 is a cost valuation summary. The replacement cost new of the building is $4,195,785. The accrued depreciation is $3,834,785. So the depreciated cost of the building is $361,000. And that is also the same as the total depreciated cost. The land value is $1,181,000. So the total value is $1,542,000 rounded. Page 4 is the cost summary by building section. Again, there's just one building section. And I've already mentioned that it was masonry built or masonry bearing wall. It has basement area. Yep, it has an overall depreciation rate of 91%. On page 5 is the land valuation. The net area of the land is 32,268 square feet, and the net rate is $36 per square foot, giving it a land value of $1,181,000. So the classification and liability allocation, it is a taxable school exempt based on Municipal Assessment Act 23(1)(e). And the building, which has a total depreciated cost of $361,000, is also school tax exempt or taxable school exempt based on Municipal Assessment Act 23(1)(e). On the next page, page 6, is the land sale comparables. And the first one is located at 634 Portage Avenue, was sold for $42.97 per square foot. The second one is located. Oh, there's also resale of the same property or the same comparable, was sold for $75.91 per square foot. The third one is located at 1566 Pembina Highway, was sold for $34.04 per square foot. And the last one is located at 425 Wardlaw Avenue. It is sold for $60.01 per square foot. On page 7 is the map of the subject property and comparable land sales. On page 8 is the zoning and some zoning information in the succeeding pages. And beginning of page 13 to page 14 is the 2023 cost report for the subject property. That's my presentation, Mr. Chair.
Questions, Mr. Neufeld?
Yeah, I don't know how to ask this one. We have been working on these personal care facilities for 6 or 7 years, and we had a decision, and the parties had agreed that to use the cost from this decision. So I'm just wondering if you intend on following through with that as you did for the other sites.
I believe these properties are at least the group care home. With regard to that, we've been dealing with this. So if this is the same, then it should follow through. But I haven't really looked at.
Okay, well, I'll present and then you can question it then later. Mr. Chair and members, this has been a long process, and we've been working together for a while, and we still have a few bugs to iron out here. But we had this decision that we agreed would represent a test case for care facilities and it was just based on the original misapplication of a Marshall and Swift cost, and replaced with actuals. So I'll just present it, and then Ryan can cross on that to see if it looks like it's the same thing. Other than that, I just had a couple of questions on the land on your page 6. Number 1 and number 2, were you aware that a variance was in the works for a greater density
During the time of sale?
during the sales? Yes.
No, I didn't see that.
And your other 2 comparables, one's from Fort Garry, the other's from Osborne Village. Nothing else from the West End?
No, I went with the sale that's almost comparable to the subject's land area.
Thank you. Those are my questions.
Richard, any questions? Richard, are you on?
I have none, thank you.
Thank you. Diane, do you have any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Neufeld, if you could make your presentation then.
Yes, thank you. What and the other thing we had discussed and agreed to was that the city was going to be providing its workup, and then we would be responding with rebuttal, which represented the changes from this order. So I'd really like to just refer to my rebuttal. We filed something as just a placeholder so that the Board of Revision would actually send us the evidence. And the intent all along had been to look at incorporating the order. We did resolve several care facilities in December on the same basis. So I'd like to refer to it, and it's mislabeled. I called it 1031 Portage rebuttal. It's my mistake. It is for 1041.
It's been relabeled correctly as item 1 in the rebuttal folder, file 22-1857 for the panel members.
Yep.
A 7-page document. The first page says 2109 Portage.
Yeah, okay. Well, I make 2 mistakes then now.
Oh, okay.
There were all 3 properties today are similar.
We're keeping a record of this, by the way. We're up to 2, eh?
Yes. And when I hit 20, I'm sure I'm in trouble.
Mr. Valderrama, you have the rebuttal?
Yes, I have received them.
Perfect.
Okay, so it's mislabeled. So essentially, we had this test case on Falcon Ridge, which was heard. The response was received, I think, in like October of 2022, and we were waiting for it for a long time. And by that time, the new reassessments were out, and we had filed appeals. We were just met with Ryan and Brian, and we agreed on a couple of things. One was that the board said gave us a methodology of doing the costs, which was based on actuals. All the costing for care homes in the city had been done on the wrong classification. Some had been done on hospital, some had been done on the wrong Marshall and Swift category. We'd had a fair amount of evidence and some actual costs to construct, and an expert on Marshall and Swift testify, and the board came to the conclusion that our number was essentially correct, and it was at the time I think 165 a foot, which we then adjusted for time based on the Marshall and Swift to 178.70, and that's what you're seeing on our first page. 178.70 on the same square footage. The depreciation, the board said that the assessors was good, so we keep their depreciation and do not change it. So the value does end up dropping by $58,000 in this case, and I think that's uncontested. And of course, Ryan's free to say whatever he likes. The part that we hadn't discussed was the land value, and what I have here is another care facility on our page 2, which is 44 Furby, Misericordia, and you'll note that on that particular one, the sales that were applied were all West End sales, and the value ended up being lower. Yes, I know I'm comparing assessments, but in this case, we are talking about the same type of facility as well, and we are talking about the same part of town. Other point on page 4 is the variance on 634 Portage. This has been in the works for a long time. The person who ended up getting it is Don White, who you may know was with Colliers, so our information came from firsthand. They did end up, and they knew at the time a variance was going to be possible. They ended up requesting on page 5 144 square feet per unit rather than the 500 square feet. And actually, that's wrong. I'm looking, it's marked page 4, C2.
I think I'm on the wrong page.
Yeah, well, it might be.
It's our page 5, I think, is what you're looking at. The variance order, DAV
Yeah.
151, whatever numbers.
Yeah, okay. So there's a double change in density. That's what I'm just picking up. So in 2015, they got a density of 500 units and you can see that the variance order from 22 talked about 0.1B, a lot area of 144 instead of 500. Now the 500 is if it was C2 in the past, and page 6 shows C2, which is the equivalency of RMFM. RMFM on our last page is actually 800 square feet. So what happened was we had a double change. We went RMFM to RMU, which is 500, and then further to a site specific. So I went from 800 square feet per unit to 500 square feet per unit, and then to 144 square feet per unit. So the sales that the assessor brought in on his page 6, comp 1 was the 500 square feet when it had the RMU, and number 2 was below that, whereas in fact it should be C2, which is 800 feet per unit, and our subject is C2, no variances. So that's it's just a question of reliance on that sale, and we did go through this in 44 Furby, and you'll note that it wasn't included. So we're just thinking that deleting that one and dealing with sales that are actually in the neighborhood, there should then be an adjustment in the land value as well, that we had specified from 1181 to 890,000, 1.2 million an acre rather than 1.5 million, and that's based on the difference in density on the multifamily lands, and that's the proper methodology for multifamily lands. Is you base your value on your density, not your square footage. We are at C2. His number 1 is at RMU. His number 2 is at sub RMU. And the other ones that they used for Furby were more representative. So our request for value is 1,184,000 rounded, 40S, and that's on our page 1. A little bit unorthodox, but I know this is not a surprise to the assessor. That's our position. Thanks.
Ryan, do you have any questions or anything you want to say about what Mr.
Yeah, I just
presented?
Yeah, I just wanted to take note of the rebuttal. It seems like it's would it be considered a new evidence due to the fact that this is a I don't see any rebuttal or on my evidence on this one, a direct rebuttal. It's more of like introducing new information in terms of what the value that they wanted. Just,
Well, I think Mr. Mercury should respond to that because we did have meetings about this beforehand, so I don't think the parties are surprised.
Yeah, this is part of an ongoing discussion and process, so a little bit surprised that there would be objection to this. The municipal board order that Mr. Newfeld's referring to is one Falcon Ridge and personal care home that went to hearing over several days, lengthy decision. There appears to be consensus on the parties to adopt that order going forward. So, one would think that the assessor would want to see some consistency here and follow the municipal board order that was granted. So it is a proper response to the submission that's been made. I guess the question really that is put for the assessor is whether there is any disagreement with that methodology from the assessment department's perspective. So presumably they've had an opportunity to consider this.
Ryan?
I guess the question on that one, we have adopted it based on other care homes that we've dealt with before. I was just looking at the $178.70 here on the rebuttal. It seems like, isn't that the decision? This from the Falcon Ridge? Was that from the 2020 decision?
Yeah, that's from the 2020 number, which I think was, and I'm just looking for it, 165,000 and what's $165 a foot. And then we met and we resolved about 5 or 6 of these, and we changed that number by the Marshall and Swift factor of 6.5%, as you see we've stated there. So this is the same number that we resolved. If you recall, we had that one hearing date where we had Lee Boulevard and Henderson and Falcon itself again for 23. That's the same number what we used for all of them. And I've got the submission that I sent to you on that and I can re-forward it to you, the submission where we agreed. And then we did have some disagreements, and that was the 2 areas we did not come to agreement on. We have one land value on Morley, this land value in Portage, and a liability of area for 44 Furby as to the hospital site of exemption, and then the special care units. And this property does not have special care in it, nor would it be qualified for a full exemption regardless. So those were the exceptions. I'm just, I'll give you the date that okay, well, I've got your email to me, 1970 Henderson, 1265 Lee, 735 St. Anne's, 575 St. Anne's, 450 River, 185 Despin, 1 Falcon Ridge, 171 Donwood, and 1 Morley. These were all ones where we came to agreement on specifically these numbers, and I did not sign Morley because we have a dispute there on special needs because it's a registered hospital, and I'm just sending it to the board right now, and I'll resend it to you or respond to you. This is the same, exactly the same methodology at the 178.
You want to ask some more questions, Ryan, or you want to look at the information first?
I could take a look at the information, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Just received it. Ryan, I'm passing it on to you and for the board. Give me a moment while I get it put into the SharePoint here.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Sorry, Jason, where did you put it?
I haven't yet. I'm downloading.
Okay,
Download it.
okay, sorry.
Give me a
Too
half a
fast.
minute.
And I have one more document. This was the original submission to Ryan and Brian, and which was accepted. It's a file marked estimates in XXL, and then we had the follow-up response from the city on acceptance of it, of my numbers and our dispute was only the land, to be clear, and the special needs unit. So I thought and to be fair, the city, when we disputed the land on Morley and the special needs, retracted their offer because they thought, well, it's going to another hearing, and that's fine. We can live with it. But you can see from what the communications I sent in, there's been a tremendous amount of hard work by both parties, goodwill, and I don't expect a dispute on the value on the cost approach.
So the email is in there as a message. If you guys aren't able to open it, I can resave it as a PDF. And then the 3 attached PDFs are also there as separate files, all listed under the SharePoint in the rebuttal folder at the moment.
Let us know when you're ready, Ryan.
Okay. Yep. My question, Mr. Chair, would be on the land valuation as well. So the land value for this 1041 Portage Avenue is it based on the same methodology that was used to come up with all these things that we did in the past?
Sorry, the board order, and when we adjusted the land values in our decision, the board order said that given the type of facility, the value should be at the lower end of the range. So you, I, and Brian and Jamie all agreed that we would go to the lower end of the land value for the PCH homes in the suburbs. And so what that means is that if Misericordia Hospital is at the lower end of the range and it's in the West End, then so should 1041 Portage, because that's what the order said. And now I'm going to have to send you the order as well to remind you of, and I got to find it here. Just the reference on it. I thought there was a good decision on that. Okay. Unless Mr. Mercury, you have that decision handy. I'm just looking for it for some
Sorry,
reason.
which
The original Falcon Ridge order?
okay, bear with me here.
I don't even know where I saved it.
But didn't you say you adjusted that anyway?
No, there's two. Yeah, well, there's two things that to show you from the order. One is the rate per square foot from 2020, which we adjusted from 165 to 178. And the other was the quote on the land, how it should come from the lower end of the range.
So the email should be in the folder for the rebuttal. I know, Mr. Neufeld, you've sent 2 additional pieces. Those emails should also be in the rebuttal folder. Mr. Valderrama, apologies, my Outlook crashed while trying to convert the files to PDFs. I'm forwarding those to you right now. So you should have those. And in the meantime, I'm going to try to convert these to PDFs.
Oh, that's why I can't find it.
Mr. Chair, could I ask Mr. Neufeld a question for clarification?
Sure, go ahead while we're waiting.
Rocky, I'm looking at an email Tuesday, February 7th, and attached or below that on a without prejudice basis, a summary of 2023 assessment and appellant offers. Falcon Ridge, River Road, Lee Boulevard. Is that referencing the long meeting that you, or hearing that you talked about?
Yeah, that was, let me just find it. The first one is after the decision I sent Ryan and Brian my workup on October 28th, and that's the PDF of the Excel file called estimates. And then the response was from Ryan, and then there's a pasted in numbers, and you can see that we had agreement on virtually all of them. There were some exceptions, Morley being one, Riverview, but the rest we came to agreement on the numbers we had sent in at the 170. So yeah, I think the answer was that this was, and again, it is without prejudice, but okay, Ms. Mercury just sent the order finally, and what the page we're referring to on the order.
I don't
The panel members won't have
I don't
that.
think they have it. Yeah, sorry, you might have to forward it to the.
Received it.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Can I ask you a question, Mr. Neufeld?
Yeah.
Why did you not include all this in your package rather than just holding up a space?
Well, I guess I assumed that we were on the same page and there would be no questions as to it. And now Ryan has some questions. So I thought it was done and decided.
My question to the panel members, are you apologies for the interruption. To the panel members, are you able to open up the emails as they're sent as MSGs? The reason I ask
I
is
haven't.
So what are you saying, Jason?
in the rebuttal folder, I have submitted Rocky's evidence, but they're listed as Outlook files at the moment. Any file that is more than a single page on the PDF, unfortunately, it's causing my system to crash. So I can print them out and scan them in as a workaround, but that takes a few minutes, so we can either.
Oh,
Okay, so
the-
the one that you just sent, the one that Mr. Whitbread was talking about, we got that fine.
And it opens for you, okay?
Yes,
You're
Mhm.
talking about the Excel file, right?
correct.
Because-
With the Excel with
Yeah.
Falconbridge River, Lee Boulevard, that one worked fine.
Yep.
Oh, good, okay.
I'm referring to the actual email itself.
The email we can read. It doesn't show an Excel file, but it shows all the numbers there. Like it
Okay,
doesn't show
okay.
an Excel document attached, but everything's there.
Okay,
Then the one that says PCH message, that's an email that just shows going back, this is what I sent on the 25th, no
Okay.
problem, morning Rocky, then, oh, I didn't receive anything, I did that, blah, 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 to the bottom.
as long as you are able to open them, that was my question.
Yes, yes. So is there another one that you're putting in now?
I put in 4 total now. The PCH counters email, a PCH message, an urgent, and.
Yeah, 8, so urgent,
Wait.
and then there's an urgent 15.1 as a PDF, and then there's an urgent 15.1 as an email, and then there's a PCH message as an email, and a PCH counter offers message.
Okay, you have everything that I've.
Okay, all right. So now which one do you want to talk about, Rocky?
The board order that I just sent in,
Okay, that we don't have.
We don't have.
okay.
Just received it, that should be up momentarily.
Okay,
While we're waiting for that, continuing my question to Mr. Neufeld, could I switch over to the assessor, Mr. Chair?
Sure. Right.
Ryan, Mr. Neufeld has claimed that you have this agreement on $178, and yet you've used values different than that. Are you not of the same mind as Mr. Neufeld, or are you still trying to figure that out?
No, it was that same amount. It's just that in the original brief or the evidence that was submitted prior, I think a couple of weeks before, I didn't see any calculations on that matter, and it was brought up as a rebuttal.
I'm not understanding. I'm sorry.
It was the $178.70 was brought up in the rebuttal that was submitted just earlier, I believe, earlier today.
Yes.
I'm mistaken. So it didn't come up even in the original evidence that was submitted a couple of weeks back. So it's again it was there. I agree with the 178.70. It's just that it just was brought up this morning.
Okay.
My question would be, if you had this agreement, why didn't you use the 178.70 in your evidence?
I was using the cost approach, whatever we got in our system, based
Oh,
on the
you-
marginal reserve.
You simply went with the model.
The cost report that was attached on my evidence,
I think
2023 cost report.
Mr. Neufeld is ready to share something, I think.
so can I ask a further question on what you're just talking about then?
Sure, we're completely out of whack here now anyway. Let's
Okay,
go.
so where you came up with where on Rocky's page 1 of 7, his first rebuttal, where you came up on the left-hand side with 366.50, you're now agreeing with Rocky at 292,890?
I just did do a quick calculation on that one.
Okay.
While he's calculating, the order has been submitted, Ryan, to yourself as well as the board. It should be in the SharePoint.
Okay.
Did you put it in the rebuttal file, Jason?
Yes,
I'm not seeing it.
It's listed as LF Municipal Board, January 5th.
You got to refresh.
Went to a different place, yep.
To answer Miss Knight's question, yes, it looks like the math adds up.
Okay, so then all we're really discussing now is the land value, is that correct?
Looks like it is, ma'am.
And then the land value you have at $36.60 a square foot, and Rocky has $25.50 a square foot. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I'll let you guys continue.
Go ahead, Ryan. On the land. What do you want to do with that?
On the land, just I don't see how much is the land value that
890,838.
so that is how much in terms of square feet?
That works out to $25.50.
25?
Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, hang on. 890.
It should be 2760, I think.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Which is
This
based
same
on
as Furby.
2760.
44 Furby. 44 Furby. What are the sales on those on that 44 Furby based on?
Rocky?
Sorry, well, two things. The board order that I sent you on page 22 of the board order, and this is what we followed for the other properties. It is likely that a PCH motivated by affordability considerations rather than profitability considerations for development would gravitate toward the lower cost property. The assessor's analysis may overstate the land value appropriate to the subject property. So what the board said is that you should gravitate towards the lower. And in this case, for all the PCH properties that were in the suburbs, the land values I think ranged from 600 to 800,000 per acre. All those agreements dropped it to 600,000 per acre. Now we have a West End property, which is a different land area, denser multifamily. We have a hospital value at 1.2 million an acre, and then on the port of this site, they want 1.5 million an acre. So I would concede to the order that says look at the lower costs, and then in addition, of course, the Furby sites actually used West End sales, while the workup on 1041 Portage used for Gary, Osborne, two totally different areas, and then a density, a variance approved site on 634 Portage. I think we're just following the philosophy and message of the board order.
Ryan?
Yeah, the subject property is located on Portage, 1041 Portage Avenue. So using the sales that were used for 44 Furby, but it looks like they are all within the their fit, because they do have some sales here, and it seems like the ward law is in the River Osborne area as well, which is $60 a square foot. So I think that's the one that I would disagree with, Mr. Chair. Just the valuation on the land.
So you're saying it should be around the $60 range? Is that what you're saying? What did you have it at?
No, I have it at, my rate is $36.60 on the land value.
And Rocky's at 2760. Rocky, what do you got to say to that?
Well, that's completely incorrect. I mean, with all due respect to Ryan, Osborne Village is a much different market than Portage Avenue in the West End. Osborne Village is a desirable place for multifamily development. And you look at what's happened there, think of the tennis courts, the Winter Club, and the Plaza Hotel, the interest that's been generated there as compared to the West End, which is, like I said, it's just a different part of town. You're not hitting those numbers. And the sales in 44 Furby were all in that Misericordia, Maryland, Maryland Sherbrooke area, which is a few blocks away from the subject, and does share same property location attributes as West End properties.
But would you agree that the Portage Avenue is a better frontage among all of those?
Well, I don't think you're building an apartment, you really care about frontage. You care about filling it full of people, and you'll note that the ones used, the West End sales used in Furby, Stradbrook, Good, Isabel, Maryland, as opposed to the ones you have for this one, which is 634 Portage, which was a variance-based deal, 1566 Pembina, which is I'm trying to even think what that was redeveloped to. I can't recall. And Wardlaw, which is in the heart of Osborne Village. And on top of it, I mean, some of these sales are dated more than others. I mean,
Here, let's see if we can bring this meeting back to where we should be. And I think that's Ryan asking you questions, and we'll go from there. You've presented all your information now, correct?
yes.
Okay, Ryan, can you continue with your line of questioning on where you want to go? Or how close you guys are to a...
Yes, Mr. Chair. With that, I was questioning this rebuttal. However, it was brought that there was an agreement. I'm sorry.
That's one of the reasons I haven't opened anything yet. I'm waiting for that rebuttal thing that you said.
Yeah. And it looks like there should have been the evidence, and it was brought up as a new information. I was looking at the evidence, and this one is supposed to be in the evidence. That's why it's kind of a new evidence. However, the details on it, yeah, I would agree that the 178.70 was discussed before, or has been discussed before. Okay.
But the land values were discussed before as well. All those agreements had land values at 600,000 an acre for the suburbs, and that was your department agreeing to it, to go to the lowest value in the suburbs.
Right, and so that's why I was just trying to find out where the value is coming from on the land too.
Well, from the more centrally located land sales in the West End, as opposed to the suburbs.
And you mentioned about the variance on the sales. Which sales had the variance?
634 Portage was originally C2 land at 800 square feet per unit. Then for the first sale, it was at RMU, which is 500 square feet per unit. And for the second sale, it was below RMU at 144 square feet per unit. So essentially what we had happen was on two sets of planning changes, the density went 5 times higher. So you're selling your land on the value per door, not on the value of the land. So many units you can put on it. So that's not an appropriate sale. Neither.
I think that's all the questions that I have for now, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Rocky's presented. Richard, do you have any questions?
I don't, thank you.
Diane, do you have any
I
questions?
actually do. If we look on that first rebuttal we looked at, which was the sale of, or the 44 Furby thing with your land values that you were using, where you talked about McMillan, West Broadway, West Alexander, and West Broadway again. Isabel Street is showing at $23.68 a square foot for 9,000 square feet. So a property with 32,000 square feet, would that normally sell for a higher value or a lower value than that?
I don't, it depends on the future development. I'm looking at the zoning here, and Isabel was R2, as was Good Street. So they had the same zonings, the same density permission. As did Stradbrook. Then there's RMFM, which is in Maryland. And then the sale dates as well. I don't think there's enough there to find a trend. I was only I guess the point I'm making here is we got West End properties, two different care facilities. One's at 1.5 million, one's at 1.2 million. And we are looking for the lower the value, and that's based on the board order. The board order, and on all the suburban ones that you're looking at, when you open up the Excel spreadsheet, you will see, I put it in red, the change in the land value to the lower end of the range. That was all agreed to. So this is part of an agreement, and to look at the lower value of land, because it's a charitable organization. It's not for profit. All these buildings are for profit. And so essentially what the board is saying is these facilities can't afford to buy expensive land. So if you're doing a cost approach, they're going to be looking for cheaper land, and it's based on replacement cost. And that's what they said. There lots of parts in that order I disagreed with, lots of parts in it that were appropriate. And we agreed that we'd ask for the referee to give us a call, and now we're living up to it.
Okay,
We just want those two items.
Okay, thank you.
So the sale that happened, I'm going to start asking questions on this one, I guess, on Furby. When did that sale occur?
Furby?
Yeah.
No, Furby never sold.
So how'd you get the land value on that one then? That's where you came up with 2760, wasn't it?
That's the assessor's workup.
So they'd worked it at 20, but he had the assessor's workup on Furby. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, we're talking about equity here.
And I'm just saying that that's the wrong one. I'll go back to this one. So you're using one of his comparables is what you're doing.
No, I mean, I wasn't using the comparables. I was using the workup and the analysis on it, because the board order stated a position of equity in this case. And that's the reason we did it. And it was the practice that when, as I said, go read through the Excel spreadsheet I sent, and you'll see that all of those I can just point them all out to you, just opening it up here. This was my workup and was accepted. We took the land value for the first one Falcon, which was for the year of 2020, was 607,328 per acre. And then you go to look down at 450 River. There's the override, 607,328 from 748. Look down to Lee, 607 from 639. 735 St. Anne, 607 from 845. This was all agreed to. The overrides, there's another override, 1970 Henderson, 607 from 624. Agreed to by the assessor. We did an equity on the land. And now we're in a different market region dominated by multifamily uses in the West End, and multifamily land is a little more attractive than in other areas because and one site they say 1.2 million, the next site they say 1.5 million. It's the same philosophy here, the same thinking, the same equity-based argument that has been presented and accepted by the assessor, and mind you, double the value. Now we're not asking for 607,328 per acre, which is what the board has actually suggested and used. Really, we said we'd live with 1.2 million. It's 7 years trying to encapsulate in a meeting, but
So Ryan, can I ask you a question, please?
Yes, sir.
On your land sale comparables on your presentation, why did you not put anything in the West End other than the Portage Avenue one?
I was looking more into the zoning and the land area of the subject property, Mr. Chair, on this one.
You were trying to find something to zone the same.
Yes,
But-
sir. And also the land area, close, at least close.
But what we're looking at is on redevelopment, everything's going density now, is it not?
I'm not sure the trend right now, Mr. Chair, on that one, and when it comes to the density.
Well, gentlemen, I've got no further questions. I'm going to ask you both to make a summation and see where we're at. So Ryan, you go first.
I don't have a summation, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and Mr. Neufeld.
Yeah. So firstly, and I know this is the assessor was talking about Wardlaw. I had forgotten to mention that Wardlaw is also Don White's group, which is part of the Plaza Hotel and redevelopment, and they got density approval for greater density because council supports higher density in that area. Council supports higher density at 634 Portage. Now you've got to prove that 1041 Portage would get approved for high density if you're going to use a high density sale. That has not been proven, and the only way to prove it is make a request. You can't assume anything. So essentially what we have is we have the assessment department putting forward, in this case, on its page 6, 3 sales where higher density was a part of the transaction, and the 4th sale dated from 2011 and at a lower rate. So we're not comparing apples to apples. You can't take high density sales and just assume everybody is getting it. That's the big issue. The second issue is when the municipal board reviewed all the sales in our test case, they did come to the same decision because there were sales presented that had different uses and different densities, and they agreed that a personal care home, a care facility, could only afford to be in cheap land. And if you're going to assess it as a care facility, you have to think that way. There were other issues presented to them as well. One of which was because this was a decision based not just on the cost approach, it was based on excess land value. The concept of taking a land sale where the highest and best use of the property on top impacts the land, you got to demolish it to make that happen, which is not typically what you do in the cost approach. So there were complexities to it. And so their decision was page 22, the lower end of the range. That's all we're asking for. And I think the other matter has been agreed to on the cost of reconstructed replacement cost new of the subject, there is agreement on. So it's just that land value. But
Okay,
again,
Mr. Chair, can I just ask a question of Mr. Valderrama?
Sure.
Just for a point of clarification for myself. So, Mr. Valderrama, then you're changing the cost approach to 93,000 and then the land 1181 for a revised total of 1,474,000.
I'm sorry, of the land value of how
So
much?
your original was value of the building 361. So now you're changing that to 293 with the land of 1181. So you're changing your total value of the property 1,474,000.
Oh, on the wrong page. Sorry. 1 million. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
were you all done, Mr. Neufeld?
no, I was just hesitating. I'm just thinking as we went along. No, like I said, it speaks. It's just the land value, and using 3 of Don White's purchases where he got higher density approved is not appropriate. And on the market side, and then on the equity side, we had a situation where the suburban ones were faced with the same issue, and the board settled at 607 an acre, and we had 5 other sites in the suburbs that were changed to 607 from their amount by consent of the assessor. That's in the rebuttal information we gave you. So there is a track record, there is a history there. And, all due respect, I know that Brian is out of town, I suppose. And I think he's been ducking us for a while. And Ryan's up here standing alone, trying to guard the fort. But when we got together in November, we worked it out and agreed that way. So I don't know why it's changed now.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Neufeld. We're going to move on to item number 2, and that will be 333 Maryland. And this one here is classification, value, and liability, right? No value.
No value.
No value. Just classification and liability.
Correct.
So that means you're going to present it this time, Mr. Neufeld. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, I guess so. Okay.
Wait till we all pull it up, okay? This could take a while. Come on. Where is it?
There's so many things now.
I've got so many things popping up. And I don't have my record coming up.
If you step out of the rebuttal folder, it's in the main folder listed as item number 2.
Yeah, that's where I'm trying to get to, but it's not letting me out of that other folder for some reason. I got out now. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Neufeld, you're up.
Yes, thank you.
The roll number and the file number, please.
Oh, okay. I don't know how to do this. Roll number, I think, is 1309602990, and a file number 22-1878, 333 Maryland. This property was formerly Workers' Compensation Board offices. They were purchased by Norway House Band, and there was a change in use. This is under appeal for 2020 on the class issue, not on value. It's a purely class issue. They changed the use, And in summary, we had it's the building is built in a couple of sections, and you can see we've included the sketches on page 3, 4, 5. There's a 4-story section and a 2-story section. So the usage of it right now is the 4th floor of the 4-floor section is to be future office. Last time we were in there, it was still undeveloped, but we're not disagreeing that that's got to be a class 60. The 2nd and 3rd floors of that section, so floors 2 and 3 of the 4-story and floor 2 of the 2-story are what's called TAP, Treatment Access Program. And what that does is it offers accommodation to people who are coming from Norway House to Winnipeg and are awaiting beds. It is a residential use. And it's part of the band infrastructure. So it's not for profit. It's not a hotel. It is a part of their program. It should be considered residential. And then the 1st floor is, and this pertains to the 2-story building, and the 1-story building, that's reception on the 1st, but the 2-story building is actual apartment rentals. And there's no requirement to be in the First Nations to get one of these apartments. Now, but it, I believe that most of the people are First Nations in there. Now, the whole program, the TAP program, is explained on page 7 and 8, and on page 9 is the Norway House flow chart of what they own. So under this falls under the health division of Norway House, and they're the different programs they operate under their health program. Treatment Access Program is explained on page 9, and essentially says exactly what we're saying, what I've been saying, and then the reports on it are follow. The property exemption, and I'm waiting if Mr. Mercury gets, if I'm getting this right, under which section of 22.1 I'm looking for is
Sorry, which area of the building are you referring to just specifically?
right now the TAP program.
Okay. Yeah, so I believe it's 23
or was it just residential?
So well, I think it's this in this particular instance, it's just a residential class that is being it's if you look at Mr. Newfield's brief, page 18, I believe it is, there's the class regulation that is there, and I believe it's section 3 sub A sub double I, dwelling units that are to be used for residential occupation. I think this was the we have been in this building, and I think there was some question as to what the precise use of it is, and as Mr. Newfield's indicated, he is satisfied himself that in fact this is the actual use. So class is based on use or intended use, and this is the section that we are referring to. I don't know that we've gone to the I don't think that the exemption issue is being pursued. It's just a class issue.
Yes, I think that's correct. It was the class that this essentially all but the 4th floor should be deemed as residential 2, and the 4th floor is class 60 based on their usage. I'm sorry, and the basement space is used for working space. Actually, no, the basement space is an educational institution. I forgot about that. They teach Forgive my ignorance, but I'm trying to remember the language that Norway House uses. But that's what they're teaching in the basement. So it's a seminary of learning, which is school tax exempt. So basement school tax exempt, 1, 2, 3, residential 2, 4, class 60. And you're going to ask if we had broken those down. No, we were just going to use the square footage as a ratio.
You said class 2, 20, 20S for the basement?
Yeah, no, would be, I think 40S for the basement.
40S?
Yeah, and
60T.
60T for the 4th floor. And I forgot the code for residential too.
Okay. Is that your presentation so
Well,
far?
yeah, I was just going to give you the percentages too. I had to look at the assessor's brief to get those. So we're looking at 40S as 25% just on square footage. And the 4th floor section is 6,500 feet, I guess. So that's 12% class 60, and 25% 40S, and then 63% residential. That class code.
Okay.
Resident. Yeah, I don't know what the class code is. Okay, sorry, I don't know the class code. Just residential too.
Jamie, are you stepping in before I go to Ryan?
Yeah, sorry, just clarifying, just as the res 1 or 2, res 2 speaks to undeveloped, unapproved, vacant, or abandoned land. Res 1 is the developed space.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I believe it's res 1.
Res 1, okay.
But is this multiple?
There's 4 or more dwelling units.
Yeah.
So it's RM1, correct?
Not sure of the exact class code in the assessment system, but
Sorry, you're right. It does fall under residential 1, or wait, I don't know.
well, if you look at page 18 of the brief, has the class codes, and residential 1 section 3 speaks of, and then sub 2, building that contains more than 4 dwelling units used or designated to be used
Yeah,
for
but that
residential
says
occupation.
other than.
Yes, okay, I'm sorry. And then the next one is, that's right, it's the exclusion. It's res 2.
Yeah, res 2 is more than
Yeah.
4 dwelling units. And it also is, and it also consists of dormitories as well, which is some of the top rooms we consider dormitory because they're not fully serviced. Some of them don't have kitchens in them. So we are correct here in that res 2 is more than 4 dwelling units, and or dormitories.
That's right.
Anything else, gentlemen?
I think
Nothing?
that's it. I think you have the square footages.
Yes, I gave him the ratios on, and it's just based on total occupied area. In this case, we're treating the basement as space, unlike some of the other days, because it was developed that way. And if you look at a picture of the building, you can see that the basement is a bit of a bi-level height. So, and they do have space down there for the classrooms.
Ryan, you have any questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair, but before I ask my questions, I would just like to object to an earlier comment that Brian's ducking Mr. Neufeld when it comes to all these work. You know that we have been working hard and diligently with regard to all of these PCHS. So I would just like to object to that comment that there was the duck, Mr. Neufeld by Brian Dupuy.
Well, first of all, I know Brian's got a good sense of humor, which I was in that vein, but we do have about 8 unanswered emails. So I don't know what else to call it.
Could be.
Anyway, go ahead with your questioning.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. On the request for classification change on this property, so you're basing it on Municipal Assessment Act 23(1) E? Is it E? Echo? If I may clarify.
The seminary of learning is D.
D? G?
Yeah, for the basement.
And that's you're not basing it on other Municipal Assessment Act legislation or sections, right? Just on the D for the basement.
Correct.
Also, do you have any floor plans exactly of the exact square footages on your brief, so that on your evidence with regard to those square footages?
We had the drawings, and I'm just trying to see if they were scaled and legible. There's dimensions listed on them, and we did send these to the department some time ago. And what I was just doing right now was I was looking at your cost workup to determine the basement space and the 4th floor space. I think, yeah, I see one of them is scaled, and page 6 with dimensions. This is what I have right now. We do have some more plans from the owner that, again, we're hoping. So page 5 is the 4th floor, or the same dimensions as the 4th floor, but I don't see a number here. Oh, I see it. There's where it's marked. Yes. Page 5 is the 4th floor, sorry. Page 4 is the 3rd floor, and then the 2nd floor. Okay, so we do have all these in, but they're not marked out. And then we'd have the assessment department work up from the last cycle, and I'm looking at your page 1, the total area 55,930 square feet, 14,000 is basement, 14,270 is basement. We do not disagree with that. And then your other workups on page 3, the specific sections. So the first section at 7711 square feet per segment is the 2-story, and then the one at 6559 is the 4-story. for the plan area, and that's what I was using.
Okay, going back to 23(1)D, just a quick question. Does the occupier or the owner of the property a college or a registered seminary of learning?
Just 1 second here. What do you mean by registered seminary of learning?
Or a college or a school or
Well, it's not required that the entity be a college per se, or there be any formal registration. So there's all types of entities that constitute a seminary of learning, depending on the nature of their organization. So I think in this particular case, certainly part of what they do is educational, and I think Mr. Newfield described that. So it's a small portion of the building that is being allocated for that use.
Yes, and it is.
Sorry.
It is. I was just looking it up. It is teaching of the Cree language in that basement space, and when you complete your course, you do get a little diploma. That's usually been the test of a seminary of learning, if you can graduate with a piece of paper.
And with regard to the residential component, you were requesting a residential 2 classification. Is that correct?
Yes, that would be for the upper floor levels, with the exception of the 4th floor. They are all in use for residential, and I'm not sure if you were with us on the inspection.
No, I wasn't.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure Brian was with us, and it may have been a different assessor. And we did see the people who lived in the units. So this application has been in before the assessment department for quite some time.
I think that's all the questions that I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Richard, any questions?
I'm just looking at one thing. Do you want to go ahead to Diane?
Rocky, you said you didn't have the values. So I broke out the values, and I just want to confirm that those are correct.
Oh, sure. Okay.
So the residential 2 would be 1,634,440. The 60T would be 310,560. And the 40S would be 647,000 for a total of 2,588,000.
Yeah, that's I'm approximately what I would have put in. Thank you for doing that.
Okay.
That was mistake number 3. We're a bit lazy.
It's okay. That's the only question I have on this.
Okay. Richard, are you ready, or you want me to ask my questions?
No, I'm okay. I reread the act. I'm good.
You're good?
Yep.
What? My question, Rocky, is why didn't you just go to the city and ask for this? If you already had them do the inspection on it, they could have just changed it. They didn't need us.
Well, we sent the letter in, and we haven't heard a response. Nothing. And so it's sitting on someone's desk, and we filed an appeal at the same time to speed up the process. We've neither been denied nor confirmed on this. Just no answer. And let me just show you something on my wall here. Now, this is my whiteboard, and on the left side of it, there are 12 properties where we've done the same thing. We put in a request for a change in class or liability, and we have not received a response. So we're then faced with filing an appeal to speed up the process. Usually what happens is we get to a hearing, and at that point there's some momentum to get this resolved. And at the last hearing for this, nothing happened. So we filed a municipal board appeal on class, which they will hear. And then we filed this one again. I don't understand it. I can't speak for them. If we had a letter denying us, at least we could live with it. We'd understand, and make our decisions, but we've got nothing. And it's the top of the one there, 407 Graham, we had a promise 3 years ago that it was going to get exempt. I'm still sitting waiting for it. And so we got to file appeals. We have a whole list of these ones. It's just, I mean, Jamie and I are kind of used to it. It's a two-step process: file a letter, file an appeal, and wait 3 years.
Okay, question for you. Something like the McDonald House. What would it be listed under?
Sorry, what? The
Like McDonald House, what would it be listed under?
McDonald House?
What's the address on that? Is that,
Right across from the Health Science Center there somewhere, isn't it? It's where the kids with cancer can go and.
Oh,
I
yeah,
believe that's exempt or school exempt in its entirety, but that's at 62 Juno. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell you
That's medical boarding.
that would be
Medical boarding home.
yeah, that is
taxable
it's all school exempt because I think they provide services in there as well. I'm just looking at the assessment. The entire property is school exempt.
Okay, when
If
was
it's
this
62
property
Juno.
when was this property purchased?
2003.
They've owned it that long.
Yeah. I think
And
that
they've
there's a
all-
lot of indecision in between as to what direction it was going to go in. And it wasn't until they contacted us, I guess it was 3 or 4 years ago, that we began work on it.
Because they must have built those rooms in there.
Yeah, they're built out. There's people living in there.
They're all built up. And it's called a medical boarding home. So they recognize it already, right? Or is that you that recognizes it as that?
Well, when we looked at it, it was sort of a cross between medical boarding or medical receiving and residential, because the first floor was long-term. They are fully self-contained units and under longer lease. So it's an apartment, truly, first floor. It's 2 and 3 that are more dormitory style and more medical receiving. But the length of stay, I mean, it's I think both are covered by the residential. You can see the plans on that too. When you look at page 1, main floor, you see the units all have bedrooms in them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's full-fledged apartments. Then when you go to the second floor, the units are smaller. They're bachelors, all of them, and they've got of course restrooms or bathrooms in them. Not all of them have cooking facilities. And then on the third floor, it's the same thing there. Fourth floor then is set up as office. And when we were on the second floor, I remember that the food delivery came in. So this is catered, or no, it's not catered. They bring in outside food. So the lack of cooking facilities here, where, but being like a First Nations medical receiving is a little bit different than other ones, because the length of stay is a little more indeterminate than a Ronald McDonald House. I don't know if there's a subtle difference or not, or what it is, but it's still residential.
Okay, so the city's got it as a C2 commercial.
Right.
So C2 commercial, are you allowed to have residential within a C2 commercial?
Yes, you are. The equivalency, automatic equivalency, is RMFM.
RFM.
It's not even a requirement to ask to apply for it. It's And you know what? It was in the previous documents, their previous hearing, the zoning on it, the equivalency to C2 RMFM.
So it meets all fire codes for residential?
Yes.
When were those plans drawn up? What year?
2014, it looks like.
Oh, yeah, you're looking at page
On page 6, there's a
Yeah,
stamp.
yeah.
2014. So when
Yeah.
did the construction?
Well, when I was in it, and I'm trying to remember when we were in it, was it 2019 or 2020? First floor was done, and they were doing work on the second floor to try to extend some of the services to it. So some of it was done, some of it wasn't. But that's just like they were trying to install the a couple of units with cooking equipment in it.
It looks like some on that one floor, they haven't decided if they're putting rooms in it yet.
Yeah, that's the third floor.
Yeah.
And it on the plans, but we went up there and they were it had superseded the plans by then. They were working on the conversion to medical receiving.
And that was 2020. So all the permits are now closed?
It's a good question. Okay, every permit is closed except for install CCTV and install 27 wiring ducts. So yes, they're all closed. And the second and third floor permit was taken out November of 2015. And there was another permit, the third floor permit, same date, 2015. So that's when the permits were taken out. I don't have the closing dates on them, but they're closed.
Okay.
Can I just ask one further question?
Sure.
In regards to the basement where you're saying that it said it's an education for Cree, I think you said, to learn Cree and a diploma. I can't find that on this evidence that you put in here.
No, and I realize that I'm just looking it up here. We have pictures of it, of course, and we had a change in our drive, so we missed transferring those pictures over, and I can't find them. But I know Mr. Mercury and I were down there, and we were there was classrooms. I think there was one going on when we were there, and they had a schedule.
All right, thank you.
Now on your page, I don't have numbers on your page, but page 9. You show the Norway House cremation in their chart. The tap room is the bottom left-hand corner, correct?
Yes.
Are any of these other ones in there?
I think that there's some like space that's available for them to be used just in the general meeting rooms, but this one is mostly like there's no public health there. There's no clinic. I don't think so. I think it's just treatment access program, the long-term rentals, and the educational system, which is going to be, I don't even know where that is.
I'm just wondering if they're going to be putting that on the top floor.
Oh, well, the top floor are offices for multiple uses for the First Nations group. So there'll be, like the people we met with are a part of the planning organization. So they would be involved with the facilities in Norway House as well as the ones on Maryland, and as well as another facility they're looking at in Winnipeg right now. So I guess I don't know if you would call that exempt or not, or if it's part of the program, but they're more in the planning side of it. I met with them, as a matter of fact, about a month ago on another facility that they're looking at.
Is this where Jordan's principal for their first initiative is located then?
I don't even know what that is.
Shame
I don't
on you.
I don't believe so.
I'll have to educate you.
That's why we have the internet. Oh, okay. Well, that's no, I don't believe so. No.
Okay, I've got your all done. Let's move over to everybody's asked their questions. Ryan, your turn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So do I have to read through everything, Mr. Chair?
No,
Since
you
it's only
don't have to,
classification.
because he's all, just read your information that you want to present. He's already put the file and the number on.
Okay, yeah,
The roll
thank
number.
you. So again, the roll number is 130-960-29900. And the address is 333 Maryland Street. We have this classified as other property with a taxable liability. Property is a non-residential group care with 2 stories, 3 sections, and effective years built of 1964 to 1976. Has masonry bearing walls with average wall height of about 11 to 13 feet. It has a zoning of C2, as mentioned earlier, and it has a land area of 24,667 square feet, a planned area of 20,830 square feet, basement area of 14,270 square feet, and a gross floor area of 55,930 square feet. So the next page is the cost valuation summary. The replacement cost new building is 7,795,939 square feet, or dollars, sorry. And accrued depreciation is $5,846,939. The depreciated cost for the building is $1,949,000. Or the total depreciated cost is also the same as $1,949,000. Land value is $639,000. So the total value is $2,588,000 rounded. On page 3 is the cost summary by building sections. And on the next page, page 4 is the aerial photo of the subject property. Page 5 are some land sale comparables. The first one is located at 156 Marion Street. It was sold for $32.92 per square foot. Second one, located at 155 Sherbrooke Street. It was sold for $31.40 per square foot. The third one is located at 1343 McPhillips Street. It was sold for about $26.89 per square foot. And the last one is located at 250 Marion Street. It was sold for $25.81 per square foot. So page 6 is the map of the subject property and comparable land sales. Page 7 is the zoning, and the succeeding pages are zoning information. And page 12 is the land or classification and liability allocation. We, again, as mentioned earlier, the class code is 60 other, and the liability is taxable for the entire property. And on page 13 up to page 16 is the 2023 cost report, or sorry, 2020 cost report for the subject property. Sorry, that's a typo. It should be 2023. Sorry, Mr. Chair. And that's my presentation.
Questions, Mr. Neufeld?
Yes, what does the occupancy permit say on this building?
I don't have the occupancy permit, so I wouldn't be able to answer the details with regard to the occupancy permit.
You're not aware that occupancy permit 06139-449 taken out in October of 2006 said that this was a boarding home?
Again, I don't have that information in my evidence, Mr. Chair, so I wasn't able to review that too.
Okay, that's my only question.
Richard, I should say, Jamie, do you have any questions?
I think the only question I have is that the chair had mentioned the property on Juno Street. Are you familiar with that, Mr. Valderrama?
I haven't seen the property, no.
Okay, and it's the entire property is classified as school exempt. In this particular instance, it's a First Nation entity. So not a registered charity per se, but is there any dispute that it is being used as a boarding home?
As mentioned in the property information, I don't see any classification issue with regard to our assessment. So and comparing it to the Juno property, I'm not familiar with it yet as of the moment.
Okay. Sorry, when you say you're not, you don't have any issue with the classification issue, are you referring to your own assessment or the information that's been presented today?
The assessment, sir.
Okay, but now that you've been made, or you have become more familiar with the property, is there anything in particular that you have an issue with respect to the boarding home use of this property?
I'm still on the assumption that our assessment is the classification in particular is still correct on this matter.
Okay, those are my only questions. Thank you.
Richard?
I'm just going back to page 1 of your brief. So your property type, then you've indicated it's a non-residential group home, which would characterize it as a taxable property, as you've clearly stated. Did you say somewhere in the question and answers back and forth, did you say that you had not attended this property?
I haven't seen it or inspected it, the interiors of it.
Okay, so you've never been inside the building.
No, I haven't been.
Thank you. That's all my questions.
Diane?
Has anybody from the city's assessment been in this building that you know of?
As mentioned by Mr. Neufeld, I believe my colleagues have been there.
And your colleagues didn't make an adjustment after they had been there?
I believe so. They did not know.
Thank you.
So from what I'm getting, then you disagree with what they're saying that on their classes that they're asking for, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
So even if there was an educational function in the basement, you don't think that should fall under the school exempt?
As I've mentioned in the questioning earlier, ownership or the occupier of the basement, is it really a school or a college or a seminary of learning? That's
It's a First Nation.
Well, if it's a school or a college or seminary of learning, then I would assume that it would fall under 23(1)D. Is it a school, college, or seminary of learning. It's I have not made it hasn't really convinced me that it is, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question once you're done, please?
Yeah, go ahead. Ask
And
it.
it's for Mr. Neufeld. Mr. Neufeld, anywhere in your evidence that indicates a special name for the education facility in the basement? For example, you call the TAP TAP for the second and third floor. Is there a name? I don't know if it would be a school or a name.
Yeah, there is. It's part
I'm
of
sure.
page 10. I can't KSIW.
Yeah, Kinoseo.
Oh yeah, okay.
Now, is that not the whole facility? Does it not go under the name of Kinoseo CP?
Yeah, it does, and the language services are offered, under that umbrella, and it's a relatively informal style of programming, but they that's what the use of the space is.
So they
It's
would
all
start, they would
it's all
start to publish their diploma, that sort of thing.
Yes, that's what you would get from them. We asked this question specifically of our site contact Tony, and yes, you will get a diploma after you take the courses, and there's different courses offered, different levels.
Yeah, I can't find anything in here that
Yeah.
says it's an accredited
Mhm.
Well,
course at all.
I don't know if you have to be accredited, because we've done an awful lot of these seminary of learnings. Like a ballet school counts as a seminary of learning. Kids gymnastics does. It's a question of the curriculum and the final result.
Yeah, I mean, what I can add there is on the website for Norway House Cree Nation, there is a section devoted to the Norway House Cree Nation Cree Language Initiative program, and that is run out of Maryland. In terms of, and there's I don't know that it's in Mr. Neufeld's material, but essentially it's a program to preserve and maintain the Cree language. In terms of formal diplomas being offered, I'm not aware of that. I can say that we have done a number of seminary of learning exemption applications for more traditional English second language schools, if you will, or not schools per se, but institutions. And the city has not historically, at least in my experience, had any issue with those. So this building as a whole, I would say, and the programs that are offered here is unquestionably a little bit unique. We don't see buildings like this or programs in it, across the city. We have a couple examples of them, but so I certainly do appreciate the questions and some of the challenges that it might pose for the city. But I think that's the information we have specifically on the educational component.
And that's the information I was looking for. Thanks for that connect to the internet. Okay.
Thank you.
No further questions from me.
And no further questions from me. Ryan, you wanted anything in summation?
I have no summation, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Rocky and Jamie, anything in summation?
I just had one thing to add. I just sent this in as rebuttal. I asked the assessor if he'd seen the occupancy permit, so I sent it into the board as rebuttal. It's to occupy a 4-story multi-use building, including basement, as a boarding home. Issued October 1st, 2009. That should have triggered this whole class thing 14 years ago. And, it would have saved us the time and trouble here. We got a permit as a residential operation. And, I think one of the things we had told you that there were different uses in the building, and or you just look at a simplified use and say the predominant usage is residential and change it to all residential. Either one of them would be an appropriate response. Thank you.
Ryan?
Sorry, you got that permit, didn't you?
Rebuttal should be in the rebuttal folder.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, we don't have to go over it, but you know it's there. And I don't know if Mr. Mercury has anything to say.
Yeah, I think Mr. Neufeld is saying is that the predominant use of this building is as a boarding home. The occupancy permit speaks to that. I think we've tried to take a fair and balanced approach to this and be a little bit more precise in terms of what different portions of the building are being used for. It's full transparency. We did invite the assessor to attend the property a few years ago and walk through it. So again, it's a unique property, but I think when you look at certainly the makeup of the building and how it's being used, this is a fair classification, proportionate breakdown that we've presented. So I don't think we have anything further to submit at this time. Thank you.
Ryan, anything in summation?
None, Mr. Chair.
None. Okay, I guess we'll move on to the third.
I can give you those inspection dates, and I'll tell you who was there. According to my records, it was November 27th, 2019, and I have 4 people listed. Me, Jamie, 5 people, Brian Dupuis, Ryan, and Jennifer Martins. November 29th, sorry.
Yeah, I don't recall if Ryan or Jennifer were there per se.
No.
It may just have been Ryan actually at the inspection. In fairness, I don't know that Mr. Valderrama would actually attend.
No, it could be right. I know Brian was there.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to item number 3.
Mr. Chair, I wonder if we could take a 5-minute break.
We sure can.
Thank you very much.
We'll call the meeting back to order. Property we're dealing with now will be on 2109 Portage Avenue. Is this one on classification, liability, and value, or
Yes, all 3 points of appeal.
all 3 points, right? So, Mr. Neufeld, I guess you'll be going first in that case.
Okay, let me just double check what we're doing here. 2109 Portage. No, it's just the value within the class, no new change in class. And I know the last hearing's closed. Kineseo CP is the registered charity. I had to throw that in there. Anyway, no, the assessor should just go on and on for value. That's all we're debating.
I just wanted to clarify, Mr. Chair, if the entire split class, the 2 split classes are in contention.
On this one, no, they are not now. You said you agreed with them, did you not? Split class?
We agreed that there are 2 classes, and those are the 2 classes that are being applied. It's the value within the
Within those 2.
So
Yeah.
both values, Mr. Neufeld.
That's correct. So you can go first because they've agreed that in the classification. We will be confirming the classification.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next property has a file number of 22-3862. Has a roll number of 07569040600. Property is located at 2109 Portage Avenue. So as mentioned earlier, there are split assessments. We're dealing with the roll year 2023 using reference date of April 1st, 2021. The first assessment has an assessed value of $10,335,000. It is classified as an institutional property with a liability of taxable school exempt. And the second assessment has an assessed value of $29,700,000 $672,000. It has a classification of institutional property with a liability of exempt. The total assessed value is $40,007,000. The property is the property type is a hospital with 1 to 8 stories of 15 sections. That's effective years built of 1955 to 2002. Has a construction class of masonry bearing walls. It has average wall height of between 10 to 15 feet. It is zoned as EI, educational and institutional. It has a land area of 445,364 square feet, a planned area of 114,541 square feet, a basement area of 78,440 square feet, a gross floor area of 480,632 square feet. The next page, page 2 is the photo of the subject property. And on page 3 is the cost valuation summary. The replacement cost new for the building is $112,289,451. It has an accrued depreciation of $80,856,451. The depreciated cost of the building is $31,433,000, and the depreciated cost of the detached structure is $233,000. The total depreciated cost of building and detached structures is $31,666,000. It has a land value of $8,341,000. The total value is $40,007,000. On page 4 are the building section, different building sections within the property. And on page 6, the details of the detached structure. The total detached structures is $233,000. And then right below it is the land valuation. There are 2 split classes. The 40E or institutional exempt, taxable exempt, has an area of 373,157 square feet with a rate of $18.73, which has a land value of $6,989,000. The second split has a class and liability of 40S. It has a net area for the land of 72,207 square feet, a net rate of $18.72, which gives us a land value of $1,352,000. So the total land value is $8,341,000. The split classification are based on, for the 40E is it is based on Municipal Assessment Act 22-1E, and then the 40 taxable spool exempt is based on Municipal Assessment Act 23-1A. That's for building and the land. And on page 6, I do have the land sale comparables. The first one is located at 50 Sage Creek. It was sold for about $11.23 per square foot. The second sale is located at 103 Sage Creek Boulevard. It was sold for about $16.14 per square foot. The third one is located at 869 Panet Road. It was sold for about $13.88 per square foot. And the last one is located at 3047 Ness Avenue. It was sold for $17.42 per square foot. On page 7 is the map of the subject property and comparable land sales. And page 8 is some zoning information. Up to page 13. On page 14, I do have the 2023 cost report going up to page 26. And that's my presentation, Mr. Chair.
Questions? Jamie or Rocky?
I'll start. firstly, in regard to the land, so what is the total acreage?
For the land area, the total area that I have here in terms of square feet is 445,364 square feet.
Well, I'm asking about the acreage for a
5, 3,
specific
6,
reason. It says 10.2 acres, right?
10.22.
Okay, and there's a hospital located here, as well as a personal care facility, correct?
Yes, there is. That's the reason for the split assessment.
And the Municipal Assessment Act allows for a 10-acre exemption for hospitals. Is that correct?
And it also allows for 2 acres of land for the care home.
I'm asking 10 acres for a hospital, correct?
That's the maximum, up to a maximum of, correct.
So somebody allocated looks to be about an acre and a half, almost 1.7 acres for the personal care facility, and the full exemption for the hospital wasn't given then, was it?
It was allocated based on the percentage of the, let me just double check on that, based on the PCH, the personal care home, and the hospital areas.
Do you recall a discussion we had about that earlier, about changing that to the full 10 acres? The exemption?
I don't recall when it was, but it's I don't recall the particulars of it. So there was a discussion on it.
Okay. And what is that? What is your value per acre?
On this one, it's about 815 or 816, under $816,000 per acre.
Okay, 815 per acre, and your sales on page 6, there's not a single one of them that's that high, is it? Is there?
Well, the closest one is the one that sold, the fourth one, by Ness, not in terms of proximity, but in terms of the sale price per square foot.
Oh yeah, I didn't ask about the closest. There's nothing that's 815,000 a foot, is there? They're all below that,
Per
correct?
acre.
Yeah, okay. And again, is your data collection searching based on size rather than location?
I tried to get as much or closest to the subject property in terms of the size and its zoning.
Okay. I mean, two of your properties in Sage Creek and one on Panet Road, quite some distance away, aren't they?
They are, yes.
Okay. Did you have a chance to inspect?
This property, the subject property, no, I wasn't able to.
And can you just confirm that, speaking of the personal care portion, and I guess you don't have a picture of it, you have numerous buildings here and numerous improvements, but the amount that are classed for the personal care home would be certain floors in the tower. And I'm looking at page 22. So you would have the personal care tower floors 3 to 7, then our personal care home, and then the basement would be personal care home, and then floor 2 is exempt. So that's a hospital use then, floor 2?
On page 14 of my cost report, that's where the allocation of the hospital and care home would be.
Okay, and
those that are, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I didn't want to interrupt you. What about the first floor?
I'm just looking at our cost report here. I don't see first floor, second floors, or any floors. It's more on buildings.
Okay, well, I can suggest to you that your floor 2 is actually floor 1 and 2. I see. You call it. Oh, I see what you said. It's 2 levels. So the exempt portion is floor 1 and 2, right? And then the school exempt is floors 3 to 7. Is that how it's been done?
I'm just basing it on our cost report here, so it's more like building sections rather than floors.
So just to, so we know what the board's looking at here. We have a building that has certain floors being called personal care home and certain floors being called a hospital, correct?
Not on our assessment, no. Based on the 2023 cost reports, they're all by building sections here.
But this tower is a 7-story tower, correct?
The entire building has between 1 to 8 stories. So the building tower, don't see any floors.
Well, I should back this up. There are multiple buildings on the site, right?
Yes, there are building sections on the site.
Now, the one that I'm talking about is the one that's got a curved front on it, more visible from Portage. People would have recognized it. That's a 7-story building that you're describing on your page 22, correct?
Page 22, which is the personal care tower, floors 3 to 7. Yes.
But there are floors in the building that are hospital floors, 1 and 2, correct?
Not sure where the 1 and 2 is. Personal care tower exempt. There is a building section or on the bottom of page 22 that says personal care tower exempt. So I'm assuming that would be included in the hospital assessment.
And when was the last time somebody went through the building to determine if the usage ratio was still the same?
I'm not sure when it was last inspected.
Are you aware of the changing nature of personal care homes and hospitals where bed usage has changed over time? I know I've sent you I've sent your department several reports on this. I'm just wondering if you've maybe read about it in the news, how bed ratios keep changing.
I'm not aware of those, no.
Those are my questions. Thanks.
Jamie, do you have any questions?
No further questions, thanks.
Thank you. Richard?
I'm just trying to see, I believe there's a parcel of land south of Portage Avenue that's used for parking, Ryan. Where have you covered that piece of land off?
Sir, let me just double check. On the land assessment on page 5.
Page what?
Page 5, land assessment. It was just what do you call this? They're just separated based on the use between PCH and hospital. So the land area. So there's split assessment in the land section of page 5.
So you've just lumped all of the land in together, including that parking structure. Is that part of the 10.22 acres then?
The 10.22 acres, yes, both of them would total to 10.22 acres.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Diane?
Diane, you're muted.
Said my question was asked and answered, sorry.
No problem. Okay, I'm going back down to the building. So on your page 5, Ryan.
Page 5. Yes, sir.
Land for the PCH is 1,352,000. How much land is that?
1,352,000 for the PCH is, in terms of area, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
72,207 square feet.
Do they take up the entire piece for the building?
I'm sorry, what?
That building and the hospital are all on the same plan, right? On the same,
Roll, yes.
it's all on the same roll. So
Yes, sir.
the hospital is using up the full 10. They have the tax exempt on full 10.2. The 10 acres, do they not?
No, we allocated them based on the use between hospital and personal care home.
How much? So the hospital's only using 83% of the land, 84. And you're saying
Based on the areas occupied in the building.
okay, but there's 10 acres that should be tax exempt for the hospital.
There's also 2 acres that can be attributed up to a maximum of 10 acres that can be attributed to a personal care home on the other side of the.
But that would just be school exempt. But that would just be school exempt.
Yes, the taxable school exempt.
And the other one's totally non-taxable, correct?
And the other split.
It's totally exempt, yeah. The hospital side is exempt, is it not?
The hospital, I'm sorry, which one?
Is exempt?
The hospital, the land attributed to the hospital of about 83% is fully exempt, yes.
Okay. So why would we add exempt? That's okay, I'll leave it alone. I won't go there. Mr. Neufeld, do you make your presentation, please? Mr. Neufeld?
Yes, as before, this was one of the properties under discussion with a prior agreement that the city was putting in their evidence, and then we would respond with rebuttal. It was known at the time, and the same as you've already heard for 1041 Portage. So I'm going to refer to my document marked. There's a couple of both documents, actually, 2109 Portage and 2910 Portage rebuttal. Starting with the rebuttal document. The issue on this particular property is a change in the usage of the beds. And there's a fair amount of documentation that we've included how over time the beds at Deer Lodge have changed. Deer Lodge was military firstly, and as the number of military users declined, Shared Health took it over and began repurposing it for all sorts of different uses. And when there was a personal care home bed shortage, more beds were there allocated to that. Since that time, they've taken half their beds and repurposed them for special needs. And that's why we're here today. Now, the same issue applies on the 178.70 per square foot. There's an agreement. And I can't see, I think that we all understand that we're agreeing to the 178.70 a square foot for construction. The other issue on the land, we did have also, and I hate putting words in people's mouth who are not here to answer the questions, but Mr. Dupuis said, yeah, we should use that full 10 acres and just chop you down to 0.224 acres of land. And that, so, I mean, I'm under oath. Ryan knew we had the conversation. Can't remember the substance of it, but this is what was discussed. So I thought we had an agreement there. So on my page 1, I'm actually giving you 2 columns. Now, the way it's set out right now, the column marked 2023, all PCH, is just a correction of the cost per square foot and of the land area. So this has been agreed to. And that works out to correction of the cost, maintaining the the depreciation and changing the taxable portion from 1.658 acres down to 0.2 acres. That's a value of 6,568,000 on the PCH portion, 40S. The other portion doesn't change. And the reason it doesn't is that we're doing this on the cost approach, and it's a replacement cost. Replacement cost for a PCH is not the same as a replacement cost for a hospital. They are vastly different. And that was the substance of the appeal to the municipal board, which they agreed with. You can't, no matter how it's built, because the replacement cost method has to exclude all sorts of super adequacies in functional obsolescence. That's the number. So I don't anticipate a disagreement on the 6568. That would have been signed off a while ago. Now, what's changed is the change in the beds. Now, what happened is that it was repurposed to more special needs, which are typically what they call behavioral or Alzheimer's units, where the person is the person in the room is no longer a resident, they become a patient. And that's the distinction. So as a patient, they're not leaving this hospital. They are not going to get better. They're in a restricted quarters. The healthcare levels are higher, and there's some documentation in here about treatment of Alzheimer's patients. Essentially, it's no longer like in a typical personal care home. You'll find a few nurses, a lot of nurses aides, and then just people who are assistants who really don't have an accreditation, but they're working in there. Because what you're dealing with is in a personal care home is people who are more ambulatory. They can look after themselves to a degree, need a little bit of assistance, and not the specialized health care. The minute you cross the line, now you need doctors and nurses. And it now becomes a healthcare issue rather than a personal care issue. The other distinction is that we know that there are personal care homes that do provide this sort of service. And by the way, they do get more money from the government for providing this service. The going rate for personal care homes is about $71,000 a year, of which up to half could be paid for by the resident themselves. To a maximum, I think, of 32,000. In the Alzheimer's units, the funding formula is the maximum payment a person could potentially pay. It remains the same, but very few people pay it because at this point in their life, most of them are really not having any source of funds anymore because they've usually been put on there's somebody else who's got power of attorney, and the estate's changed. And the funding is, I think it was $110,000 a year allocation in the government per bed. So it becomes a treatment rather than a place to live, essentially. And if a medical service like this is provided, if you have a private facility or a non-hospital facility, it will not change your tax classification. But if you have a hospital under the Act that's been designated a hospital, it now becomes a hospital service. On our page, the third and fourth page are the list of designated hospitals in the region, and you'll note that Deer Lodge is in here, and the next one you're going to hear is also in there, which is Concordia. They are actual hospitals. So the rest of Deer Lodge is a designated hospital. As a result, that's why they're fully exempt for what they do. There's a couple of pages about Alzheimer care provided by the Alzheimer's Society, and a couple of points that why I put this in is the second paragraph of the first page. They have to have access to 24-hour nursing. It's not the same as a personal care home. It is a higher degree of care. I think it was the third page, has to have staff around. There's something in here about having doctors and nurses available, and not the same standard as a personal care home. That's from the Alzheimer's Society. Now, what we got from Shared Health was on page 2, and this is a very a letter that was written out of very politically written, as you can read, but essentially what it says is that these are people living in dementia are in licensed beds requiring full-time and high needs care. And it's an important component of medical treatment. Keyword, medical treatment. It is no longer a residence. It is a medical treatment facility within a hospital. There are, like I said, we know there are other personal care homes that do Alzheimer's treatment, but essentially when it requires a level of care where there's a hospital component needed, then those patients will end up in a hospital dementia bed. Concordia, Riverview, and Deer Lodge have those facilities. So it should be in fully exempt. And that's our second column, where we have a letter from the manager, Kevin Scott, and he provides us the space. And he says that the total square footage for the 3 units, which are 3 floors, is 39,273 square feet on the personal care side. So they have lost space to 5, 6, 7. Several floors have gone to special treatment. So we are using 39,273 square feet in that column at the price that was agreed upon. And that comes to a value of $3,075,000 after depreciation, and the land, as previously agreed, $163,000, for a net value on the class 40S of $3,238,000. And that would, I went backwards. The E-land actually should increase by that amount, not decrease. I don't know what I was doing there. Okay, mistake number 4. 29672 should be $36,148,000. So 36,148 class E, and then class 40S 3238.
3238.
Yeah, and that's the distinction. Now, there was also something in the original brief about Deer Lodge Center, about the special needs units and behavioral units, and this is shows that there's a different level of care required, and in their dementia care units. And another email from Kevin, an older one, a newspaper article about the changes. And I started doing their work in 2016, and they have changed their bed count about 3 times. It moved from the military to personal care, and then to special needs. So these are hospital services. The assessor disagrees with this, calling them personal care home. The distinction is, I have a quote from, and I don't know if it made it into our brief, but it was kind of an interesting quote, as politically charged as it could actually be. But the chronic care beds, although the facility is their new home and they pay per diem, they are classified as long-term care by the province. So they are not, the personal care is of course long-term, but it's not care. So the minute you introduce the hospital services, it becomes a hospital use, and it's in a hospital. And that's the presentation I had. And I don't know if Mr. Mercury has anything to add.
No, I think that covers the presentation. Thank you.
Oh, wait, yeah, there was one thing. The next property you're going to hear is Concordia. And we had an inspection. I don't remember it was Mr. Valderrama, but Mr. Dupuis was with us. And their dementia beds have been reclassified as hospital.
Questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Just a clarification. So, in terms of moving the assessment from taxable to or from PCH to hospital, you're basing it on the beds, correct?
No, we're using the square footage that Kevin gave us.
Which
I
is
had
being
him
occupied by the-
calculate the square footage for us.
which is being occupied by whatever care is going on, correct?
Yeah, you can see in the email, I said, can you give me the square footage of the area that is still being used for personal care?
So for for those areas that is moving from personal care to hospital, are those areas or those floors or bedrooms or whatever they are they hospital grade, and are they set up as a hospital?
I was not in those rooms. I imagine that there will be more equipment in use in them. And the staffing levels have changed. I don't know any more about it. I don't go into the units. It's kind of a privacy issue.
So you mentioned that there are nurses and doctors in these personal care homes. Is that correct?
There are nurses and doctors on staff all the time in Deer Lodge, and they attend to the special needs units.
So the special needs units, are there any treatments or any surgeries or anything like that that's being done, or are they being moved from their unit to the hospital?
Well, they are in a hospital in the special needs, and there are some treatments undergoing. I know right now that there's actually a drug trial, and I don't know if they have begun in Deer Lodge, but a drug that stalls the onset of Alzheimer's. So I know that most of the special needs units are very much looking forward to working with it. So that would be done in their sections.
I have no further questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Richard?
I'm looking at your letter from Adrian Salonga. I don't have a page number.
Yes.
I think you know what I'm referring to. It's
Yeah.
an email or a letter. It is a very politic letter, isn't it? It really doesn't, in that last paragraph, call it a hospital, but it says dementia care special needs is an important component of the medical treatment provided. So your interpretation of that then is that would constitute a medical facility or a hospital.
Yeah, let's just say that I also had a conversation with these individuals, and I knew that was the intent of the letter, that it was medical treatment. One of the things about it is that the facility falls under the director of the hospital, not the director of a personal care home. So the boss is a hospital boss, and for them that's an important distinction, because there's an accountant who's the head of one of the PCH homes that we represent. In this case, no, these are staff people from Shared Health.
I understand.
That's their rationale. If you're operating under the hospital, you report to the hospital.
You understand the ramifications of this for PCHs as more and more of their beds are turned into special needs beds based on dementia care and the treatment that is required for people with those special needs. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the distinctions, of course, is that a PCH can never be more under the law than school exempt. Whereas when the hospital provides the service, it's exempt. So it's the same idea as if you go to a doctor's office and he does a stitch for you in his office. His office is still taxable. But if you go to an emergency and have that stitch done, it's an exempt, the building is exempt. And it's that sort of thinking, really. It's where you get the service, not what you're getting.
So if I can just jump in there for clarification, what Mr. Neufeld is saying. So under the Municipal Assessment Act, under the hospital designation regulations and the personal care home designation regulations, there are certain buildings in the city that are either designated as a personal care home or a hospital, and in some instances there are both. And Deer Lodge would be would be under both. So it'd be, and Concordia would be another one, for example. So there does there's some gray with these particular facilities whereas we have other personal care homes are nothing but a personal care home. We have others that are nothing but a hospital. So the question for a hospital is whether the insured services as defined in the Health Services Insurance Act are being provided to a patient at the facility, and then the real property classification flows from that. So it's hardly black and white, and I think over time we've had an ongoing discussion and a good discussion with the assessment department, and Mr. Neufeld gave the example of Concordia, where there was some changes made, modifications made based on the use and the type of insured services that were being provided. So I'm not sure if that helps, but I think this is just another unique facility, and it straddles both hospital and personal care home, and we have to take a look at actual use, unfortunately, on an ongoing basis to determine the appropriate class split.
I think it is becoming more black and white in that the 114 beds allocated to the tower floors would suggest, based on Mr. Neufeld's comments, that once you move to that special needs category, you would move over to the other side of the, I don't know, there's a causeway between the two buildings. You would move into the main building, and now you've become part of the medical or hospital wing. Even though they don't perform surgeries there, they do provide medical treatment, if I hear Mr. Neufeld correct. Am I getting that right, Rocky?
Yeah, I think you nailed it exactly. That's what we're trying to say.
Okay, that's fine. I have no further questions.
Diane?
So is this something that is, I don't even know if I can actually ask this question, but is this got to do with the fact that hospitals were changed to urgent care facilities as opposed to hospitals? So they reevaluated their use perhaps as to what was in there?
It's somewhat. I mean, there's a repurposing of an ongoing repurposing of healthcare facilities in Manitoba, and the every government's got a different concept of what's going to make things work. Urgent care, emergency care, access centers, and it's in constant fluctuation. Everybody's trying to solve the problem of providing people better medical care, and this is part of it.
Okay.
The concept, though, the one thing we are seeing though is moving from outsourcing in the community, like the urgent cares, the small urgent cares, into a hospital campus. So we're likely going to see more of that in the future. And the Grace was one of the first, where it has the dual facility, and it's working. They think that will work better.
Okay, so inside of these beds that are now in the hospital wing that were originally in the care home wing, per se. They're still paneled and the client will still pay based on the paneling. It's just a designation of where they are in the building. It's not a different designation for the patient, correct?
Well, partially, correct, because I mean, what's really happening in plain words is the hospital now has an additional source of income instead of just billing the government for everything.
Okay.
Now they can get a little bit out of the patient, but
Okay.
it's still maxed out at the PCH rate.
Right, correct.
You know, even though they have to spend almost twice as much money on the bed.
Okay, so then my last question is, from what Mr. Valderrama gave us was 25% and 75% breakdown, and you're wanting to change that to an 8 and a 92?
Well, what I no, for the land, you mean?
Yeah, so the numbers that you presented on your page.
Yeah, no, for the land, we're going entirely a different direction, and this was an agreement, I thought, and I don't know if Mr. Valderrama is going to affirm it or deny it, but the offer was to take the entire 10-acre exemption for the hospital and the balance for the PCH, because it is predominantly
Okay, so
the
but
hospital.
what you presented was 3,238,501 as your 40S,
Right.
correct?
Yes.
And then the 36,148 as the difference for a total
Right.
of 39,386.
So you've made percentages of that, right?
Correct. So then
Okay,
it's
yeah.
8 and 92, as
Right.
opposed to what he had 40,007,000 at 25% for the 40S at 10,335,000.
Well, on the improvement value, that was what we were looking for. On
Right.
the land
I get the
value,
178 part. I totally get that.
yeah, okay. On the land part, though, it was a different issue altogether with this property and with Concordia, because it's a contiguous
So the 10
piece-
acres to be
piece of
under the
land.
exempt.
You use up the 10 acres first.
Yeah.
And plus in this building, because it's 3 floors out of a 7-story building, like, you know, actually the bottom floor is hospital and it's on the land. So I know I'm just, you know, that this was an offer saying we would correct it.
Okay, but once again, the 40S is just going to be 3,238,000.
Correct.
The exempt, the E, is now 36,148,000, and your
Correct.
total value for this property is 39,386,000.
Yeah, something like that.
Which is an 8%, 92% split.
Yes, you're
Okay,
correct.
thank you.
I think we got that. Mr. Valderrama, in summation, are you accepting Mr. Neufeld's numbers?
No, I'm still standing by what the assessment is.
Still standing by your assessment? Okay. Anything in summation?
That's just about it, Mr. Chair.
That's it. Okay. Mr. Neufeld, anything in summation?
Yes. Based on all the information we sent in earlier in the day, the number on the table from the assessor was the 6,568,000 on the Class 40S. That's what they had been willing to come through with, and that's what they signed off on all the rest of the properties. And our sole area of dispute is the transition of beds to hospital care, and we now believe the number should be 3,238,000 on 40S, and the balance being exempt. But it's one or the other, the numbers, and Mr. Valderrama is disagreeing with it, but he agreed earlier in the 178. Now he's disagreeing with it. So you be the judge.
Thank you, Mr. Neufeld. Jamie, you have anything to add?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you. Then let's move on to 1095 Concordia. Correct?
Yep.
One. and 2. Ryan, when you're ready on 1095 Concordia. Is
thank
this?
you.
Oh, hold it a second. I think we got to start with Mr. Yeah, we do. Mr. Neufeld, you got both on here again? Classification?
It's just the value within the class, so we have no issues on the value in class individually.
Yeah. So you're going to confirm the value in class?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
confirm class. Okay. Ryan, if you'd like to proceed then. Class will be, he's accepting the class split you have.
The next property has a file number of 22-3864. It has a roll number of 020613300500. Property is located at 1095 Concordia Avenue. We're dealing with the roll year of 2023 using reference date of April 1st, 2021. And there are 3 split assessments on the property. First one has an assessed value of $10,214,000. It's classified as institutional property with a taxable school exempt as liability. The second one has an assessed value of $261,000. Its classification is institutional property with a taxable liability. And the last assessment has an assessed value of $13,446,000. It is classified as institutional property with a liability of exempt. The total assessment value is $23,921,000. The property type is a hospital with 1 to 4 stories, 4 sections, effective years built of 1976 to 1999. It has masonry bearing wall with average wall height of between 9 to 10 feet. It is zoned as educational and institutional. It has a land area of 521,923 square feet, land area of 79,511 square feet, and a basement area of 32,009 square feet. It has a gross floor area of 262,333 square feet. On next page is the aerial photo of the subject property. And on page 3 is the cost valuation summary. The replacement cost new for the building is $58,742,311. The accrued depreciation is $36,801,311. The depreciated cost for the building is $21,941,000. The depreciated cost for detached structures is $347,000. The total depreciated cost for buildings and detached structures is $22,288,000. The land value is $1,633,000 for a total assessment value of $23,921,000. At the bottom of the page, we have the cost summary by building sections. And page 4 has the detached structure details. And at the bottom is the land valuation. The land valuation, all of them has a net rate of $3.13 per square foot. And on page 5, they have the land and building summary. The first one only has a land value of $261,000, which has a class code for institutional, classification of institutional, and a taxable liability. The second one has a land value of $1,094,000 and a building value of $12,352,000 for a total of $13,446,000. The class code is institutional and the liability is exempt based on Municipal Assessment Act 22(1)(e). And the last one has a land value of $278,000 with a building value of $9,936,000 for a total of $10,214,000. The classification is institutional with a liability of taxable school exempt based on Municipal Assessment Act 23(1)(a). On page 6 are some land sale comparables. The first one is located at 145 Sage Creek. It was sold for $16.08 per square foot. The second comparable is located at 525 Pegwis Street. It was sold for about $11.16 per square foot. The third comparable is located at 869 Panet Road. It was sold for $13.88 per square foot. And the last one is located at 717 Starling Lion Parkway. It was sold for $19.51 per square foot. On page 7 is the map of the subject property and comparable land sales. Beginning of page 8 to page 13 is the zoning information. Beginning of page 14 up to page 18 is the 2023 cost report for the subject property. And that's my presentation, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Neufeld, questions?
On your starting in your page 4, what's your land value per acre or square foot?
Per acre or square foot, just quickly gonna calculate that. It's about 136,342, $343.
160,
136,000.
136,000 per acre. Is that correct?
136,343 rounded, yes.
Per acre. And your page 6, lowest sale you have is 486,000 per acre. I'm just wondering why we have such a large gap between the assessment and your comps.
These were all based again on the size, and I tried to get an educational or institutional property that has almost similar size with the subject property, but it's proves to be difficult. So yeah.
Okay, so we have an assessment 136,000 per acre. The last one was 818,000 per acre, and the one before that was 1.5 million per acre. Now, why is the hospital not given the full 10-acre exemption?
Again, they were based on the split of the use and in the property.
All right, what's on the 40T section?
That's the over and above the Municipal Assessment Act 22(1)E and 23(1)A.
What's the split of the building usage? Last one you said it was
That's
the amount of
zero.
the building use. Zero. No building on that. That's just land, right? So
Yes,
why
that's
isn't it
over.
exempt?
That was the one that's over and above the statutory or the maximum in the legislation.
What's the total acreage? I have it at about 11.9 acres. Is that correct?
I do have a total of 521,973 square feet, which is about 11.98, somewhere there.
And the
11.98.
exemption for a hospital is 10 acres, correct?
Also with the PCH, it's 2 acres. So we just tried to allocate it based on
So-
the 2 uses.
10 acres plus 2 acres equals 12 acres. Why is there
to a
any
maximum.
taxable on this property?
It's up to a maximum of 10 acres and up to a maximum of 2 acres. So if there are multiple use in the property, we assess it accordingly.
Okay, well, I'm going back to my question of before. What is the use that's taxable on top of this land?
It's none. It's just over and above those 2.
If you don't have a taxable use, how could it not be exempt? Don't you have to have a use to determine this ratio?
Because of the limit and the maximum limit that was stated in the legislation.
Were you involved in the discussion about the land on this one as well?
I'm not sure of that, no. Which land discussion you're referring to?
That this was an error?
I'm not sure.
Well, if you weren't involved in the discussion, that's fine. I don't want to, obviously you're not putting words in your mouth, that's for sure. If you weren't there, you weren't there.
So I'm not sure what the discussion was.
Um, I think, were you at the inspection of the site?
I don't recall getting into this property. Um,
Were you involved in preparation of the agreement for the last appeal? Were you involved with that, creating the agreement?
don't recall, maybe not. I'm not 100% sure. There's so much agreements that I've done in the past, so
I'd like Mr. Mercury, if he's interested, to ask you a few more questions about this exemption issue. I don't know if we have to talk about it or not.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm not sure what exactly what area you'd like me to cover. You weren't part of in any way. I think Mr. Newfield clarified the last kind of review, if you will, with Mr. Dupuis on this.
and, I'm not sure. I know there's an appeal on this one, and there's
Okay.
issues concerning hospitals with PCHS in terms of discussions regarding details of it. There could be some that I got involved with, but I'm
Okay.
not. I don't recall in particular which ones.
All right.
I'm sorry, I was just trying to look up that exemption on hospitals. That was disturbing me. You said there was an amount for it, and I'm looking at it. It says is used for a hospital to a maximum exemption of 4.047 hectare. There's nothing in there about an allocation of under 10 acres. It just says to a maximum, doesn't it?
It's not there. However, I believe there's a section.
Yeah, section
There's a different
22(1)(e).
Yeah, that one that you're referring to. However, in terms of allocating assessed values, there is a different section, section 11.7, which indicates allocating assessed values. The Municipal Assessment Act.
Okay, and that says allocate the assessed value to the classes and portions that in each case reflect the part of the assessed valuable attributable to the portion falling within the class. So my question was, where is the taxable portion? There is no taxable portion. You're allocating land to a non-existent usage, aren't you?
But that is after we have applied all these exemptions.
No, it's not, because you haven't allowed all the exemptions. It's not 10 minus 2 minus and then the balance. It's 10 plus 2, is it not?
Area that's taxable is 83,508 square feet. So basically it's over and above that's between the two when they are added.
Were you involved with the land issue with One Morley Riverview?
I was in the discussion on that one.
Under oath, don't you recall saying that Riverview had a 10-acre exemption and the PCH another 2-acre and the balance was taxable?
Well, if it reached the maximum of it, then yes. I don't recall.
It's a 23-acre site.
Right, it is.
Do you not recall that?
Don't recall the details of the splits of it.
What about do you recall? No, that's fine. No more questions from me.
Richard,
I have none, thank you.
Diane,
I'm just confused in this maximum up to 10 acres as opposed to 10 acres. So, Mr. Baldrama, you're saying that this building only uses a certain percentage, or this hospital only uses a certain percentage of the total value of the land. Therefore, that's why you have a difference of opinion up to the 10 acres, correct?
Yes, that's
Okay,
right.
thank you. That's all I need to know.
Yeah, I got to come back at you on that one again one more time, Ryan, because now I'm trying to understand it. I really am. But the 10 acres, and then you got 1.9 acres left for the PC. Why do you have some more land left over for extra?
No, it's more of what's the proportion between the PCH and the hospital in
But you've
terms
got a
of
third,
the buildings
but
and
you've got a
then
third section there.
which is the taxable area. Yeah, that's correct.
Why?
It's that's how I understood it. It's more of it's over and above what was allowed. There would be basically there are two uses in this land, and so the
Right.
PCH and the hospital, and then the hospital and the areas that's occupied by hospital and the PCH are now what do you call this? It's now being allocated. So in terms of percentage of the use of the hospital, which is about how much is it? To have it here. In terms of the building, I don't have it here. So the building for the hospital is being used, and then there's a certain percent of that, and then a certain percent for the PCH, and then when
So
after
where do you get that? Where do you get that percentage from?
the building areas.
Yeah. So you're saying the hospital is 349,688 square feet? Is that what you're saying?
That's for the land that's allocated for the hospital.
Okay.
That's 67%, and then the 17% for the entire area of the land is allocated to the PCH. And those
The
two
building,
hang on one second. Oops.
why does it say on your page 5, under building, that
Okay.
number 1 is 000 and then taxable. And then you got 347.
When
I guess I'll just have to add it up and see if I can figure it out after.
when I calculated, Mr. Chair, the land percentage of 2 and 3, which is 67% and 17% for hospital and PCH respectively, and that's about 84%. And if I multiply that by 11.9 something,
Yeah.
it comes up to 10.07 something.
Yeah.
But there's
But
still
that's
there's
but
still an
that's saying
excess.
but you're saying it's just for the building. It's supposed to also include an area for parking and other stuff on the outside. That's what the extra land is for. But you're only allocating the land towards the building itself. Correct?
On the buildings, on the uses, yes.
Yeah, and the building uses how much parking space do they need?
It doesn't
How much
indicate in
green
the act
space do they
whether
need?
it should be used for parking or not.
Well, every
where-
building has parking.
Yes, and also the assessment act doesn't indicate it should be used for parking or not. It's just a maximum area prescribed by the assessment act for both PCH and for both and the hospital.
You and I will just agree to disagree on this one.
Okay, I need to ask a further question now. Sorry.
Go ahead.
So we're talking 2 totally separate buildings with 2 totally different addresses, but they all come onto the same parcel, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Concordia Hospital, Concordia Place. The percentage of the use of those two buildings, certain percentage is personal care home, certain percentage is hospital, correct?
Yes, correct.
So where does the 16% come in under the land?
Well, when you total the two uses, it just the 84% comes up to 10.07 acres, and there's more than that.
Because the total acres is 11.98.
11.9 something, yes.
So
Correct.
you're saying that there are some parts of that land that is not used for, or some parts of those buildings that is not used for personal care home are not used for hospital. So that's the portion
Those-
that's 16%?
Those parts are over and above the maximum land that's allowed by the law or by the legislation.
So the maximum land you had said was up to maximum of 10 acres for a hospital and up to 2 acres for personal care home.
Yes, that's correct. In
So,
terms of allocating them between two uses, yes.
so you're
You
saying
don't-
that there's still a portion of this area that's not used for either then?
It's over and above.
If it was over and above, wouldn't it be more than 12 acres then?
No, it's not adding them both from my perspective. That's what I'm trying to point out. I didn't, from my perspective, I don't add them to come up with the 12 acres for
Okay, so then you're saying that part of those two buildings is not personal care home or not hospital.
No, it's both those two.
Right?
Okay, I'm
They
even
should
more
share.
confused. I'm sorry.
Is that it, Diane?
Yeah, thanks. Sorry.
No problem. Mr. Neufeld, on with your presentation.
Just a follow-up question. Do you remember the case of 1 Falcon Ridge in terms of the issue of the land?
Which particular issue on the land is that?
Do you remember it?
There's it's been a while, so I'm not which issue, which particular issue, and there's yeah.
Do you
Been
remember the issue of the
many years.
land allocation? There's a synagogue in the building and there was a personal care home, and how the board chose to decide on the land allocations. Do you recall?
Oh, that one, yes. There was a discussion on that one, yes.
So they actually allowed the 2 acres school exempt for the PCH, and then also allowed an additional allocation for the synagogue land as being fully exempt. Do you recall that?
I think it's the percentage, yes.
So they allowed cumulative exemptions, and what you're saying is that you do not want to allow a cumulative exemption. You want to have a total exemption of 10. Isn't that
But
what
there
you're
is
saying?
there is already a cumulative exemption.
No, you're
based
not.
on-
The cumulative exemption is 12 acres, 10 fully exempt, 2 school exempt. Much like the Falcon Ridge case where there were 2 sets of exemptions, they added them together. You are not adding them together. You're subtracting, aren't you?
Well, it's just based on the building components of the PCH and the hospital.
I'm asking you if you remember Falcon Ridge. I'm reading it right now.
Yeah, I remember there was a discussion regarding the exemption on the synagogue and the 2 acres, yes.
Those are my questions.
Now it's on with your presentation.
Mine? Oh,
Yeah, yours. That would be a good idea.
okay. I made mistake number 5 here, and I obviously figured out what it was. You're going to figure out what it was. There was supposed to only be one issue here, and that was the cost of the building at 178.70. That was not under dispute earlier. That would indicate a reduction in value on the class 40S from 10214 to 8773. I believe that has not been challenged, and that is with a piece of land of 1.98 acres, which is 270,000. That's a minor change from what the assessor has. The balance is exempt. Now, I made a mistake here on my summary, and I put 40T, and that should be from 261 to 0. Because the 10, I wasn't even looking at that part of it, honestly. There's 11.98 acres. 10 is fully exempt under the Act, and up to 2 acres would be school exempt under the Act. They are cumulative because they're different uses in the building, and the Act says up to a maximum of 10 acres, up to a maximum of 2 acres. It doesn't say a portion out. You get a total allowance of 10. And that's what the assessor's done, a total allowance of 10. The other portion of the Act he read to you was about allocation, which meant allocate it to the above ground usage, the improvement. There is no taxable improvement on the land. So there's nothing to allocate it to. You can't make up an allocation on a non-existent usage. The board order from One Falcon, which you've already seen in evidence, there was a split usage, 2 acres school exempt, plus additional land for the synagogue, which was rather minor, was then also added. And that was not under dispute by either party, cumulative. We've got numerous examples whenever it's done on the cost approach, and I've been reading my files here, and not to drag this on all day, but Mr. Valderrama was involved in several of these, such as St. Paul's, which had a chapel and a school, and it was a cumulative exemption. That's the way the law works. And so our number is based on 40T 261 to 0, 40S 10214 to 8773, and exempt well, actually 260,000 could move into that. That's my error, so that should actually be 13,707,000 as being exempt. That's a mistake. And I also had this conversation with Mr. Dupuis, who says, yeah, oops, we made a mistake there. You're right. Because he's the guy who approved 2,200 grant with the multiple use of exemptions. So I'm not saying the assessor's changing the story. I think that we should have the supervisory and the evaluation staff working together on this, not just sent out by themselves. We've been working on this for a long time, and I think we just needed a little bit more manpower at the assessment department end to straighten this out. Now, the other thing I do want to show you here, though, is on my page 1. All the other facts are the same, but after inspection, this section of the building, 22,000 square feet, which in the assessor's workup is on his page, just want to find his breakdowns here, is on his page 16. What the assessor did in this case is move that area into exempt. This is in the personal care home building, but this is the space used for special needs and Alzheimer's, and it's a locked facility like they always are, and he agreed to treat it as hospital. So after an inspection on this particular property, it was done. For Deer Lodge, it hasn't been done. So we're not being totally crazy by inventing something new. What we're showing here is an inconsistent system. For one, it works and not the other. So there's no value with it here because it was made exempt as being a hospital usage. That is in the personal care home building. So those are my numbers. And I don't know if Mr. Mercury has anything to add.
Just I think, as Mr. Neufeld indicated, it's just a matter of misinterpretation of the way the exemption land exemption works. It clearly is cumulative. I guess to put it another way, if it's just the hospital there, PCH wasn't even there, clearly would get the 10-acre exemption, and the personal care home would get their full exemption on a different site. And the fact that they're on the same site doesn't mean that somehow the land exemption shrinks. So I think we're on the same page there, but I have nothing further to add to Mr. Neufeld's presentation. Thank you.
Mr. Neufeld, can you give us those numbers one more time?
Yes, class
Sometimes
40,
people don't click.
class 40T,
Yeah.
from 261 to 0.
Yeah.
Class 40S, 10,214,000 to 8,773,000.
Yeah.
Fully exempt from 13446 to 13707.
Okay, I got that. I don't need anything else. Mr. Ryan, do you have any questions?
I have no further questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Richard, do you have any questions?
No, I have none. Thank you.
Diane, do you have any questions?
Just to clarify one more time, the 40S is 8,773,000.
Yep.
The exempt is 13,770,000 for a total of 22,543,000.
No.
No.
1,037,007.
1 million. Geez, Murphy, Diane. Where I'm okay, I've got my numbers messed up here. Okay, got it.
22,480.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what was your total?
Just a minute.
22,480,000.
I'm waiting for the number.
I always thought you never wrote anything down, and now everybody's got numbers. This is encouraging.
Okay, give me that again. Sorry. The 40S is how much?
8,773,000.
Yeah.
The exempt is 1,037,007,000.
1,037,007.
Yeah.
000. Wouldn't that be 13 million? If you got three zeros at the end?
Yes, I guess is it 13 million? No, it's not.
Yeah,
Yes,
13,707.
13,707. Yes. 13707.
13,707 plus 8,703,000 is 22,410,000.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Is that what you had as well, Richard?
Nope. Bear
Oh,
with me.
jeez, Murphy.
I'm just doing it again.
So 8,773,000 plus 13,707,000.
No, 8,773,000 and 13,707,000.
22,480,000.
Okay, hang on.
That's what I'm voting for too.
Yeah. I never make mistakes, Rocky.
I've got it now. 22,480. I'm good. I match now. Okay, thank you.
Now we're all in the same sheet.
Yeah.
And Rocky, you're all finished? Leah.
Yep.
Stop.
Yeah.
Okay, Ryan, anything in summation?
I have none, Mr. Chair.
Rocky, anything in summation?
No, I think we covered it.
Nothing
Okay,
further, thank you.
I was getting there. We have heard all the items scheduled at this hearing, and this meeting is now adjourned. Gentlemen, have a great day.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
See some of you tomorrow.